Good morning, this is Mark at Bancroft. Here are your controls for the Weld lathe. This is your home screen. We have controls about weld settings, recipe settings, diagnose, run, and our options. So let's run through these one by one. We have our e-stop, and we have our start and our stop here. So we'll have a nameplate on here for you. Moving on in here, if we go to the controls section, we have some different options. We have our tailstock, extend and retract, steady rest up or down, and then each one of these are our arc curtain. Okay, and then here's where we can select our mode of operation: manual, auto, semi-auto. Manual is where you go to rehome it, and if you want to move any of these separately. Auto is basically self-explanatory. Auto mode, you push a button, it starts everything. Semi-automatic, everything moves one at a time. We have an extra screen here. If we go over to select certain options, we have our welder 1 and 2 on and off. Our wire feed is disabled because we have the Miller wire feeders, not ours. Steady rest is on, and our torch indexing we have off. As you can see, the torches are down for the run, and that's going to help your production time and for the torches to be able to get into the joint on the inner fillet welds. So we'll go ahead and leave the torch indexers off for now. Okay, everything else is disabled because it's not an option that's on here. Then we go back to this screen here. If we do turn, say for like the torch on and off, let me show you this here. You go back, now the torch indexing shows up at the top screen. So you'll be able to extend and retract the torch slides. Okay, so let's go back, leave those off. Go back to our home screen. Now, if we go to our about screen, this is where the machine information is, the build date, the serial number on it, and then here is your cycle count and your arc on time. And as I explained before, this will have to be reset after every 49 days. If you guys want to keep track of any of that, you can reset the counter too. Okay, so moving out of that, we come over here to our weld settings. Okay, this is where we can select the recipe we want to use. Okay, so right now we're using recipe 2. Our part is 6-inch diameter, and our rotation speed is 15 inches a minute. Our pre-flow, crater fill 1 and 2, weld length, which is our rotation. You can go up to, you can 360, 365 degrees if you want some overlap. And then our pre-puddle, post-flow 1 and post-flow 2. And then our burn back settings. These settings in milliseconds need to match what's on the Miller power supply. So if we go through this menu here, you can see our pre-flow is 0.2 seconds. That's 200 milliseconds. So you got to make sure that those match. Same with our post-flow and so forth, okay? So those settings need to match what's on the welder of what is there. Getting out of there, then we can go to our recipe settings. This is where you will input all the settings for each recipe. So you select recipe 1, recipe 2, recipe 3, and then save the recipe, okay? So recipe, if you have a 4-inch pipe and you want to change the pre-flow and then your rotation speed, that's where you go ahead and do it. You selected up to 12 different recipes on here. So 1 through 12. Right now we're only using the 1 and 2 because we got the sample parts for that. Going back to the home position, diagnose. This is data if something goes wrong with the machine, okay? You'll have your inputs and your outputs on there. So if we go to our inputs and say, for example, something's not starting and you see tailstock not extended up at the top, you want to check and see if this light is green, and what you might need to do is move the sensor tab, which is on the tailstock. So under here, you can see these tabs. That's for retract, this one's for extend. You just take that, and then this is your sensor that you want to hit. So anytime you move this tailstock, you may have to reposition this tab to hit that sensor. And how you can check that is to make sure that light is green when it's touching. Okay. And so forth. So let's go ahead and go back to the home screen. Then we have options, which is password protected. That's where we select what kind of machine this is. So that's all for Bancroft. And then our run screen. Okay. Up at the top is where you'll get the notification of what the machine is doing. If it's in an error mode, it'll tell you what's wrong. You'll have to hit fault reset if it's an e-stop or anything like that. And then we're welding at 15 inches a minute, 360 degrees. Our welders are on. You can turn them on and off right here too. Pretty simple. And then here's where you can select a mode. So now when you put it in manual mode, you should home everything. So if you push home all, watch what happens. So everything will home. The tailstock will retract, your curtains will go up, and except the torches, because we have those off right now for extend and retract. Okay, now we have a green light for home all. So we can switch this to auto mode, and we are ready to rock. So I will go ahead and get some parts ready, and we can go ahead and start this show here shortly.